Why is it that whenever I record a video on any topic, within 12 hours it immediately gets resolved? Because you're really bad at this whole executive function thing. Thanks, Logan. I didn't need your help coming to that conclusion. Do you have anything else to add? Well, just wanted to give you shit. Alright then. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that. I made a video. I recorded a 40-minute video talking about all the things in the Bruins lead up to the season. I was going to talk about free agency. I was going to talk about the SWAYMAN debacle. I was going to talk about dev camp, and I was going to talk about training camp cuts. But looks like all that editing is for naught, because the Bruins got their biggest question mark of the offseason squared away. Yesterday, conveniently less than 2 hours after I got to work, Bruins came in with a big piece of news. After a lengthy holdout and a lengthy offseason of will he, won't he, Jeremy Swayman has finally decided to sign with the Boston Bruins. 8 years, $66 million. So he is going to get, on average, $8.25 million every year for the next 8 years. So, eight and a quarter a year for the next 8 for Swayman. Bargain. Absolute bargain. And the thing is, this needed to happen now. And it's not just because of the whole, if we don't get a deal done by December 1st thing. No. The whole get a deal done by December 1st thing was always a bit of a paper tiger. We were going to make our decision on this before we got anywhere close to that deadline. So congratulations. Congratulations. That whole debacle is not really worth our time. What is worth our time is recognizing who comes on the market next year. It's Igor Shesterkin and Jake Ottinger. And that's the big thing here. Is that regardless of what Louis Gross wanted people to think, regardless of any of that, Jeremy Swayman was not going to be setting the market for goaltenders. Now, Louis Gross, Jeremy Swayman's agent, is kind of notoriously someone who tries to set the market for everything. He did it for Torrey Krug, and as a result, he priced Krug out of Boston, which, for what it's worth, I'm fine with at this point. And Krug has shown himself. I mean, he got a cup over in St. Louis. I'm not gonna give him too much shit for it, but at the same time, Torrey Krug is not. Torrey Krug at this point in his career would be a seventh defenseman on the Bruins. Which we're gonna get into the Bruins defensive core. We're gonna get into everything because I plan on making this the new video that I was gonna upload. In any case, he priced Torrey Krug out of Boston. He made sure that William Nylander held out until the very end of negotiations, until minutes before the December 1st deadline, and he pushed Swayman until the very end of until push came to shove for the Bruins. At $8.25 million a year, Jeremy Swayman is officially tied with Ilya Sorokin for the 5th highest paid goaltender on a yearly average in the NHL. Only behind Connor Hellebuyck, Andrei Vasilevsky, Sergei Bobrovsky, and hilariously enough, Carey Price. Which, honestly, if those are the 4 that are ahead of you right now, that's fine. That is fine. Swayman, for what it's worth, is probably the best goaltender in the league right now that is not one of Vezina. Carey Price, he's on until the end of, I think, next season. And Bobrovsky, he's legitimately one of the best goaltenders in the entire league right now. I would honestly, since Vasilevsky has taken a step back, I would say that Bobrovsky has taken back over as the best goaltender in the league. Vasilevsky is still one of the best. Hellebuck just won the Vezina, and so Swayman and Sorokin, and two great goaltenders. Neither of them have won in the Vezina, and Swayman honestly is in a much better position to win it. Swayman is set up for success in Boston. Which, let's talk about that setup. Let's actually talk about the rest. Yes. Let's go over free agency real quick. Mostly the two big signings. Or rather, the two big signings and the one big departure. DeBrusk ends up going to Vancouver for 7 years at $5.5 million in a year. Honestly, they're getting a really good value from that. With DeBrusk being able to put up multiple 25 goal campaigns, and primarily as a goal scorer, he is a fantastic defensive. He has a fantastic defensive presence, and the fact that he put up those 25 goal campaigns, and while pretty much not having a center, like he only got brought up to the top line because he threatened to request, because he literally requested a trade, and Bruce Cassidy wasn't utilizing him properly. And then Cassidy got canned, and Monty said, "You know what? What if I make this work? What if I make this work? That'll be funny." DeBrusk, he has DeBrusk, tremendous value for Vancouver. I wish him luck, and it's gonna be fun and seeing him twice a year, especially because we got our pound of flesh from Vancouver in the form of two players. First off, we got Nikita Zadorov, 6'6", 250 defenseman, and by the way, absolute. Okay, when Steve Dangle talks about how the Bruins scouting department is the best in the league at finding scheme fit,
the pro scouting staff for the Boston Bruins is to be trusted. And
Fair.
They're the best team in the league at finding Bruins. Zadorov, I mean, geez, that's obvious.
Yeah, he's a Ross Boston.
He is completely right. This addition to the Bruins defensive core is absolutely a match made in heaven, and to the point where people already tried to give him the nickname of Big Z, to which he had to say, hey, I'm not Chara. Let's not call me Big Z.
I know, like, in my past teams, people were calling me Big Z. Please do not ever call me Big Z now, because I mean, I feel like I'm not even close to be called half of the Big Z. He's unbelievable. He's one of the best defensemen of all time. You know, there's definitely a lot to learn from him.
So people have called him Big Zaddy. Perfect. Anyway, Big Zaddy in Boston for the next 6 years at $5 million a year. Honestly, if the Bruins did not sign Swayman, I would be a little bit more pissed at this deal. I think that you could have gotten Zadorov for 4.5, maybe even 4. He was, let's be fair, he was the second best defenseman that Vancouver had throughout the entire playoffs, only behind Quinn Hughes. He was a fantastic defenseman for them. But other than that, he was like an average bottom four defenseman, which I don't have too much of a problem with him being. I just have a problem with that at that cap hit. But because he plays the opposite side of McAvoy, he's probably going to be paired up with McAvoy on the top line. on the top pair. Which, by the way, McAvoy is now the smallest defenseman that the Bruins have. He's 6'1", and he's the shortest. Thanks, Groswick, for going to Pittsburgh. All right. But the second one is a very much an area of need. The Bruins, after years of begging and pleading, the Bruins finally got their top line center. Say hello to Elias Lindholm. At 7 years, $7.75 million per year. 6'1", 192. He's a 6'1", 192. Without a doubt, the first ice that he sees in Boston is going to be on the top line with Pavel Zacha and David Pastrnak. There were people speculating that it's going to be Marchand and Pastrnak. No, because you see, the big value with the biggest value that Elias Lindholm brings to this team, especially on the top line, is moving Pavel Zacha to the wing. Now, I love Pavel Zacha. I think that he is. I think that getting him at 4.5 for 4 years is fantastic value for what he gives. And I love the way he plays on the wing. I do not like how he plays at center. I think that you can keep him at center for like a couple of games. I never again want to see Pavel Zacha play center for 82 games. Not even once. So I say this is not only a fantastic scheme fit because Elias Lindholm is also kind of a schmuck. He's a guy that likes to get under people's skin a lot. I think this is great not just for scheme fit, but also for putting players where they need to be. Now, there's one big problem. We still don't have a second line right wing, which is where we get into a bit of a problem. The final preseason game, which is usually something that usually has the lines arranged in a way that would also make sense for an opening night lineup, has Pavel Zacha, Elias Lindholm, David Pastrnak on the top as our top line. That's fine. Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Morgan Geekie as our second line right wing. Max Jones, Trent Frederick, Justin Brazeau as our third line. Johnny Beecher, Mark Kastelik, and Cole Koepke as our fourth line. I think this is stupid. I think that everything after the top line is stupid here. Now the Bruins have decided to send pretty much every single prospect they have, from Georgi Merkulov to Fabian Lysell to Jackson Edwards to Jackson Nelson to Riley Duran to Casimir Kaskisuo.
Casimir Kaskisuo has been called up. Casimir Kaskisuo has been sent down. Leafs lose to the Boston Bruins. Casimir Kaskisuo has been called up. Casimir Kaskisuo has been sent down. Leafs lose to the Boston Bruins. Casimir Kaskisuo has been called up. Casimir Kaskisuo has been sent down.
All of them back down to Providence alongside the Swayman signing. I don't understand. Fabian Lysell was playing really, really well, and for what it's worth, it's the best that he's played in a while. I think, hand on heart, I think that the Bruins bring him back up either by the end of today or before or sometime tomorrow. I think Fabian Lysell still makes opening night roster, but in case he doesn't, these lines suck. These lines are terrible. So assuming that he doesn't make the opening night lineup, my lines would go something like this: David Pastrnak, Elias Lindholm, Pavel Zacha. That's your top line. That is non-negotiable. Second line. Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Trent Frederick. Now, there's a little bit of hesitation to bring Frederick up to the top six. Next. People think that he is almost exclusively a bottom 9 player. And for what it's worth, he is. Yes. Frederick does not belong on the top line anywhere. But putting him on the second line, especially with the start that he had to the season last year, and his chemistry with Charlie Coyle, I can only see that as a win. I can only ever see that as a win. You keep those two together, you're going to make magic. You're going to make really good magic. Third line. Third line is where we get a little bit dicey. But I'm in favor of a line that looks like Matt Patra at center, and on his flanks are Mark Kaselic and Justin Brazeau. I think that maybe putting Patra, who's like 5'10" and only now has decided to has started putting on weight. He gained 15 pounds in the offseason, and he's now at 189. And putting him between Mark Kaselic and Justin Brazeau, who are both two titans, maybe it's a little bit weird, but at the same time, I think that it could probably work out. And on the bottom line, I would put Johnny Beecher, I would put Morgan Geekie, and I would put Max Jones. I really, after last year, people love to overrate Morgan Geekie because of the role that he played as playing third line center the entire year in relief. People forget Morgan Geekie is not a center. He is not meant to be a center. He only played center because Matt Patra had to have surgery like a quarter of the way into the season last year. So he's not a center. Morgan Geekie is not a center. I would put him on, and the only way that he is a center is on the fourth line, where honestly position doesn't really even matter, to be honest. Let's be real. Nobody cares if you're a fourth line in right winger, if you're a fourth line center. It's all a mess. It's all a mess on the fourth line, and just Beecher, Geekie, Jones. That's it. That's the line. That's the line combination I want. And that's really it. That's all that needs to be said before the season. Now, predictions. The last thing that I need to get through. Predictions. I think that the Bruins are setting themselves up to have to be a much better team than they were last year, which is kind of funny because even though last year the Bruins had a good season, even though the Bruins not only had a good season last year, but were at the top of the entire division for the majority of the season, and only lost it in like the last 5 games of the season, and then made the second round. The Bruins, let's be real, they weren't great for a good stretch of the season. After the Bruins won like their first 10 games, actually no, they started 9-0-1, and their only overtime loss in that was that Anaheim game that I kept ragging on Lindholm for the entire rest of the season, where he cut to the outside and allowed Leo Carlson and Mason McTavish to just completely run hog wild on us. That's the only loss they had in their first 10 games, and then for like 2 or 3 months afterwards, I think even 4, they were straight 500. The Bruins were straight 500 after starting 9-0-1. But that 9.5 game buffer allowed us to stay ahead in the rankings for pretty much the entire season. And and it kind of came crashing down during the Florida series. Now, I think that if the Bruins if the Bruins took the Panthers to 7, they were going to win that series, but it doesn't matter. We lost the series. Anyways, I think with all the additions made here, Bruins have a good shot. Do I think they're going to win the cup? No. The Bruins are not going to win the cup this year. I do not see the Bruins winning the cup. But I could see the Bruins making a decent run to, at the very least, where we were last season. I could see the Bruins making I could see the Bruins at their I'm not going to say bare minimum. I'd say bare minimum is making it to the second round. I'd say where I expect them to be is losing in 6 in the semifinals. But peak, I could see them making it to the cup. If they win it, cool. If they don't, still another season of hockey. Like, that's the thing with this. It doesn't. Yes, it matters if the Bruins win or lose. But at the end of the day, it's all hockey, baby. It's all hockey. And we got another 82 games right in front of us. Strap in, Bruins fans. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And it's going to be a fun one.